BBC documentary showing the royal family behind the scenes at the King's coronation attracts 900 complaints for being overly positive about the monarchy. And it was a show on Boxing Day if you were eating the turkey sandwiches then. Charles III, the Coronation Year, was broadcast on BBC One then and left nearly 900 viewers feeling that its tone was biased in favour of the royal institution. Well, you know, that is the BBC's kind of default position if you've watched Nicholas Witchell for the last 100 years. He says things in a way, you know, the Queen said this, the King said that, and they're jolly good, aren't they? Jolly good. And now back to the studio, and someone who's absolutely ranting at this very idea, this idea that they shouldn't be so positively representative, is the CEO of Republic. It's Graham Smith. Welcome, Graham.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. You don't like him, do you?
No, well, are you talking about the BBC or the Royals?
We'll start with the Royals.
No, there was, obviously, I want the monarchy abolished. I'm very clear about that.
Yeah.
The issue with the BBC, I don't have a problem with them generally, but I know there's lots of accusations of bias against the BBC on a whole load of issues, but on the Royals, I think the evidence is pretty damning, and our complaint that we made about this, I mean, I wrote to the producers before and after the programme was broadcast, is that, you know, you're supposed to be impartial, and therefore if you're going to do a thing about the year of the King's reign, then it should show the context, it should show the opposition, it should have criticism. And I don't know whether you watched it, but it was as if it was produced by the palace itself. And it was in fact produced by, I believe, Robert Hardman, who is a staunch monarchist.
Right. Should they have had him going, oh, this pen doesn't work?
Well, I think...
And having a grump in the carriage.
They covered the coronation without any mention. They didn't even show the crowds outside because they would have caught sight of the yellow banners, and they didn't mention any arrests or protests or anything. It was as if the whole year went by without any criticism.
You should have had a bit of that, shouldn't it?
Didn't mention any of the scandals that had gone on, didn't mention the police investigation into cash for honours accusations. Now, there's a whole load of things that they should have been talking about if you're going to cover the year of the King's reign.
Most people, Graham, are pro-monarchy in this country, aren't they?
Well, the polling is showing a very sharp drop. And so there's
from where to where, Graham?
Well, up until about 5-6 years ago, it was around 75–80% in favour. There's a Savanta poll just before Christmas said that 52% are in favour. The highest is maybe 62%, but it's usually in the 50s now, which is quite a large drop. There's more than a third of people now prefer having an elected head of state, so there's quite a big jump. Up from around 20% a few years ago. So the gap is narrowing rapidly. And of that 52, 55, whatever it is, percent, it's really not saying that they are loving the royals. They're saying that they are happy to keep going with it. They don't really care that much, as we saw with the polling around the coronation, where only 9% were excited by the coronation.
Can you not separate the sort of infidelities and imperfections of human beings who are the King and Queen and who are the prince and princesses, and actually say the actual institution itself is worth preserving, even if the people in it, some of them are mucky pups, aren't they? I mean, you know, you can separate the humans.
Well, you can't.
Not our Queen, who was, you know, right up there.
I mean, you can't separate them. That's the problem. It's a family business. I mean,
well,
you
it
can't,
is, except that the
you
Queen...
can never replace... The point is, the monarchy is the royal family. It is an institution that puts that family in that position. You can't go and find another family and put them in there. That's not going to happen.
Except the Australian one's King Barry, who claims he's the, you know, because he got kicked out and went to Australia, didn't he?
Not going to happen. But
not going to happen.
But it's not you can't separate it. But even if you did,
can't you?
The monarchy itself is an awful institution. It's undemocratic, unprincipled. It's secretive. It relies on secrecy to survive. You know, it's been compared unfavourably to the MI5 and CIA for secrecy, and it doesn't give us a chance to choose someone that we can have as head of state who actually has an independent role to the Prime Minister. But the family itself, I mean, you know, Andrew, as we've seen this week, apparently completely immune to any kind of police action, despite the fact there being as much evidence and as many accusations given in Andrew's case under oath in legal documents, as there were with Russell Brand back in November when he was interviewed under caution.
Prince Russell is in trouble.
Well, Russell, yes. But I mean, but this is Andrew has similar accusations, similar sort of time frame.
So on that discussion, Graham, you know, you're saying you can't separate the humans from the actual monarch itself. I beg to differ, because, of course, you have things like Black Rod, and you have the knocking on the wall and the door, and you can't come in, and all this thing. And we do have this sort of evolutionary system which flies in the face of that in France. I mean, you know, we've got the worked experiment. Would you rather have King Charles or dear former Queen Elizabeth or Macron as your head? Well, yeah, I know which one I know which choice I would make.
No one is suggesting a French-style
Go on, so what's your...
or an American-style system.
OK, so no President Biden, no President Macron,
looking at
President Blair.
Well, if you're looking at places like Ireland, Iceland, Germany, Finland, Austria, you know, they actually elect some pretty amazing heads of state. Michael D. Higgins is hugely popular. He's a poet and an academic and a former politician. Iceland has elected some really inspirational presidents. Germany has had some really brilliant presidents. Finland as well, Austria as well. So, and it works. And also they have an independent role to play, different to the Prime Minister. So we still have the Prime Minister, we still have the House of Commons and the Upper House and so on, but you have an independent head of state who's there to represent us and to guard our Constitution, which needs guarding. I mean, Boris Johnson showed us that, you know, the Constitution is pretty weak when you have a Prime Minister who's willing to do, you know, to ignore conventions and to prorogue Parliament and all the rest of it. So there is a role there to play for the head of state, which the King is never going to do.
Now, a lot of anti-monarchists, when the Queen passed away, sort of said, I'm an anti-royalist, I'm an anti-monarchist, I want to see a president. Oh, but the Queen, she was so lovely. She was lovely. She was an example. Are you one of those people, Graham?
No, because I don't put people on...
You don't put people on pedestals, except elected presidents.
Well, I don't put them on pedestals.
You wouldn't do that either.
I think the fundamental point that I always, as a point of principle, is that everyone should look each other in the eye and call them, you know, talk to each other as equals, and you shouldn't be bowing to anybody.
No. I do have this slight difference of opinion with you about human beings and the institution, because when countries chopped the heads off of their monarchies, now we have a president, and we have something called égalité, liberté, fraternité. It's not actually entirely fraternal, is it? There are real tensions when it comes to equality in that country, just as there are here, but at least we have someone above it all.
Well, they're not
to make nice speeches so that we can project our best self
the
upon
UK
them.
is one of the least equal countries in Europe, and the monarchy is symptomatic of the whole
are they to blame?
Political system, not the people. You were saying let's separate the
governments are to blame for our inequalities, aren't they? Not our Queen.
Let's separate the people from the institution, as you say, and the people are representative of the wealthiest 1%, probably the 1% of 1%. And it's in their interest to maintain this system, and the Constitution, the institution, puts a lot of power in the hands of Downing Street at the expense of Parliament and people, and so power is exercised so often for the few, not the many, and that is where we can trace back the root of a lot of our problems. So we get rid of the monarchy, we have a more democratic constitution, which means that more people's interests are reflected in Parliament, and that Parliament has more opportunity to actually make a difference to the way that we are governed.
Can I try and put another spanner in there as well? Which is that the royal family, you know, they don't pull up the drawbridge literally, do they? Because in this generation, you can be a normal person and marry into the family and then become a royal. You know, you don't have to go to the royal families of Denmark or Spain or the Netherlands anymore and marry your cousin. Well, because Catherine Middleton, there she was, normal girl, growing up with the party people out in Berkshire. Let's get this young lady into St Andrews University. That's where Wills is. Oh, she wears love. Oh, she's a darling. I really like her. She's lovely.
Yeah, her family was, of course, incredibly wealthy anyway.
Well,
before,
you know,
she married
or just wealthy middle class people. But she got in there, and you know, Boris Johnson and David Cameron, they are, you know, 58th or 63rd in line to the throne, and they come from a sorted refugee stock. You know, I mean, we do have...
This is not persuasive. I mean, Boris Johnson and David Cameron are very much of the Eton elite.
Yeah, but look at that.
The point is, except what I'm saying is... This is not egalitarianism when you're pointing to Johnson and Cameron.
Over a period of time...
Egalitarianism is when we can find anybody who we think is inspirational, worked hard, the sort of people that get the MBEs, not the sort of people that get the knighthoods.
Right.
And
would you like an MBE system? Would you call it a Légion d'honneur?
I would say, I mean, the honours is a whole other...
There's another problem.
Another problem, and it is a problem. But I mean, I would say the people that get the MBs, there are loads of people there who are inspirational, who can speak well, who can be elected by us, chosen by us to represent us and be one of us, not bend the knee to some people who have never done a day's work in their life, who just walk into that job because their parent had it before.
Hang on, when you schlep up to, you know, Northumberland and you cut some ribbon and you're shaking hands with people and you're taking flowers for people, that is work of a kind.
Well, it's attending. I mean, we can all attend.
You have to go up in the car.
They go to the football and they say that that's an engagement. And if you actually add up all the engagements, I did this last year, it adds up to about, I think Kate is one of the laziest. It's about, if you take them all and put them into full-time work equivalents, about 2 weeks of work in a year. Even Charles is about 4 months tops across the whole year. So
what does he do the rest of the time?
Well, it's a very good question. But, I mean, they spend a lot of downtime, which they don't obviously reveal what they're doing. But I mean, it will be, you know, whatever leisure pursuits they pursue, and they quite
But they do it with a protection officer. It's not, they're not, they're not chilling out watching the racing, are they?
Well, they probably
because Derek's in the corner saying.
But again, they'll go to the racing in Ascot and for their own amusement, and they'll put that down as an engagement.
Yeah,
so
really will they?
It's not hard
work. Does Prince William put down Aston Villa home matches as an engagement?
I would think so, yeah.
Does he?
And they even have Zoom calls from home, and they put those down as engagements. So it's not...
Do they?
Yeah, it's not serious.
You're not turning me head, but I don't like that. Yeah. Do I not like that?
And then when they say that the Duchy of Cornwall is a private estate, then they put Duchy of Cornwall meetings on their official list of engagements. So, you know, they pad it out quite a lot. They really
Come on, guys, I'm a supporter. Tidy it up, will you? Brad in Cambridge, Republicans, Graham, he doesn't agree with you. It was the TV show on Boxing Day. He watched it. Thanks for watching it for us, Brad. It was a celebration of the monarchy and intended to be patriotic, whether he liked it or not.
Well, there's nothing to do with patriotism. I'm patriotic, and I believe that patriotism is loyalty to your country and wanting the best for your country. We may disagree on what that is, but I watched it, unfortunately. And
you were going, Urgh.
Well, my biggest complaint was that it was so boring, but it was incredibly tedious.
Was Nick Witchell on it?
I don't know.
Well, that's a glaring omission, isn't it, for a starter?
I may have drifted off when he was, but the thing is that it was a celebration of the monarchy, and the BBC should not be celebrating the monarchy, and it should reflect the broad range of views and opinions, particularly when there were loads of scandals, when there were arrests and protests, when there were polling numbers showing a drop in support. You wouldn't get any of that impression from the programme that they put out.
So your business, is it a business or a charity?
It's a non-profit organisation.
It's a non-profit organisation, Republic. So you've got members and you convene together. Well, how does it work? You've got a magazine? What does it do?
No, it's like any other organisation, really. And we have members. It's doubled, but we've got about 140,000 supporters registered. We've got our income has doubled and doubled and doubled. So it was about 100,000 in 2020. It was close to 600,000 in 2023. And last year, so the previous year boomed, and last year boomed again. So we are growing enormously, and we have more.
You take a salary.
Yeah, this is my full-time job, has been for a long time. And we've now got 4 other full-time staff, a large team of volunteers and hundreds of activists around the country. And a lot of that is a huge growth from where we were a couple of years ago.
Are you a single subject thing, or is there a bit of mission creep? You're getting involved in other foreign policy businesses?
No, we're very much single issue.
Yeah,
so
the
single issue is just the Westminster Constitution. So we include the House of Lords, which we want abolished and replaced with the Upper House. Because you can't have if you're in Parliament and if you're our head of state, you should be put there by us. It's a simple point.
There's some very good eggs, though, in there.
Then they can stand for election. And the election system should make sure that we can vote for those good eggs, and it's not just party appointees.
But they're not, are they? Some are crossbenchers and some are very, very cross.
But if you look, if you look at the statistics for the people that turn up, most of the work is done by the party whipped people, and they're much more likely to follow the party whips. And it's incredibly representative of the wider population.
So interesting. It's a very interesting discussion. I think you've probably worked out, ladies and gentlemen, I like the monarchy, and I like it for the reasons you don't like it, which is that it represents an evolution of a system which, though it's quirky, and my word, it's quirky and undemocratic and unrepresentative, I can see that.
I mean, corrupt is the word I use. But
well, yeah.
I mean, if you look at you remember the MP's expenses scandal back in 2009. You know, people were getting outraged when an MP put a packet of biscuits on their expenses, and even more outraged when it's £10,000 on their second home. Charles spends millions of pounds on his second home, third home, fourth home, fifth home, and we spent £4.5 million several years ago to do up William's new home when he moved into Kensington Palace, and they routinely fly everywhere by helicopter.
They pay taxes now, don't they?
No, I mean,
I thought she was part of the. Oh, the Queen was part of the. She had a tax number. They pay taxes,
volunteered
don't they?
to pay tax,
right.
and they refused to say how much. So Charles, now volunteering to pay tax, he could be paying 1%, £1, 1p, whatever.
Right.
We have no idea. But when his mother died, he inherited her fortune and avoided inheritance tax, which is probably something like £200 million tax bill he avoided.
Yes.
The duchies, which they are our property, by the way, they give William and Charles about £20 million each personal income, and the duchies themselves don't pay corporation tax. So again, a lot of tax avoidance going on.